you go. Kevin Dupont, kick it off for us.
Bruce, I'm curious about these next 2 days and the scrimmages and how you go about it. You open in a week. This is a strange time, obviously. So, what's your approach for these 2 days? And also, just on a math issue, how many guys? I've seen these 3-4 man taxi squads. How big will your roster be in the end?
Well, it would be max 29, 23 plus the 6. So that would be your max. It'd be up to Donnie with cap considerations to go less than the 23-man roster. What happens to Pasta? And then the taxi squad, how's the fallout from that once we get through camp? Are we healthy? Are we not? So I think my guess is we'll be the 23 and 6, Kevin, simply because of the unknown. We'd want to have the bodies around, the ability to use those assets when we need them. But that'll be determined at the end of camp. And I think I'm going to leave that more with Donnie. He's been much more involved in those discussions on how some of those things would work, especially being on the board for the American League. He has a better handle on what's going to happen in that situation too, because you're probably balancing having players here and then having them play once they do get up and running, if they get up and running. So that's kind of what will happen with the taxi squad. After that, the next 2 days is just get into game situations for the individual. They haven't really been much of that other than what they've seen in practice the last 2 days. And, we've tried to build some of that in, but no true 5-on-5 continuous grinding against another player. So that's what we're trying to get out of it. Get game ready yourself. And then we're evaluating a couple of positions. It's been well documented at the back end. There's some openings. So specifically where they're taking a look at who's the best fit with Bergie and Marsh for the time being. Does Smith and Coyle, we like them in practice. Will they be a good duo? That's, probably it. Player evaluation, getting them ready for game situation for the most part the next 2 days. And then the last part, I guess, like I said, with Smith and Coyle, clearly building chemistry. What about Lozon and McAvoy? There's evaluation and building chemistry. Grizz and Carlo, we both know they can play in the league. Are they a good pair? So that's predominantly what we want to look at the next 2 days. We've tweaked a couple of things like we do every year. So we'll also, for the coaches' purposes, system-wise, we'll tape it and look at it after. See if we're, the things we're trying to build in a little bit, a couple of tweaks in our breakout, our neutral zone defense, how we can kind of morph and from one kind of structure to the other. How do we break out from that? So that's what we're trying to do. And
will you play three period games or a couple of?
I think what we're going to do is just do a 30-minute running, scrape the ice. That will be the equivalent of probably 2 20-minute stop times with 3 lines. The 60 is pretty normal for them. And then we'll use 4 goalies tomorrow. They'll each play 30 minutes. Booth will be his day off. He's been going double duty here a little bit. So that's what we're intending on doing. I think if the players basically say this is, we're fine, we're not fatigued at all, we might stretch it out a little bit. But that's the plan for tomorrow. We're going to go at it again Friday. So if they feel they can get more out of it, go longer, then we might extend it, to closer to a full 60 minutes. But again, we're 3 lines each team. So, we want to make sure that the game or the play on ice doesn't deteriorate when guys are fatigued, because that also lends itself to injuries as well if they're too tired.
That's great. Thank you.
Thanks, Deuce. We'll go next to Joe Kayada. Go ahead, Joe.
Hey, Butch. Just Joe Kayada in Providence. I know you're focused on the Boston Bruins and getting ready for the NHL season, but to have the AHL coming back in the Providence Bruins, how important is that to you for the development and evaluation of the younger guys?
Hi, Joe. We need it. Like we're relying on these players, whether it's February, March, April, or May, to help us if need be. So we want them as ready as possible. The best way to get ready is to play live action against an enemy. So that it's an important part for them. They've already lost half the year. They've lost part of last year. So at this age, you know, it hurts you to not be, you know, learning and learning, you know, getting stronger, playing the game. Sometimes if you're a little bit older, sometimes a little time off helps heal the body, but those guys are not in that position. So we need them playing meaningful games. So that's why we're all got our fingers crossed that they can do it in a safe environment and get better. And if we don't need them this year, then they're that much better for next year, right? So that's just part of the development plan for us. And quite frankly, every team in this league, I'm sure feels the same way. They want to get their young kids playing and get acclimated to being a pro. And I know it's a little different in this environment, like the learning the pro side, because you're in and out of the building quicker than normal. You're not working out in as big of groups, etc. So that part of it you miss out a bit. On ice part of it, we'd like the players to get as much reps.
Thanks. We'll go next to Connor Ryan. Go ahead, Connor.
Hey, Bruce. I know you've mentioned Kevin Miller and the influence he's had on younger defensemen over the years, like Matt Grzelcyk. When looking at a guy like Jacob Zboril, what do you think he can gain from playing alongside a player like Kevin? And what have been your thoughts on Zboril so far in camp?
Well, what he can gain is Kevin is a very intense player. He approaches practice, workouts, games, you know, with a very determined focus. So if some of that can rub off, younger players sometimes will rely on, you know, just their ability to play the game. They don't prepare as well. They don't have as a routine that helps them, you know, get through maybe times when the game isn't going well for them individually. So that's what can rub off on them, is the preparation, the focus, the effort in practice. Specifically, you know, when Kevin will, you know, with Grizz, for example, years ago now, hopefully with Jacob, it's like he'll go to him and say, we're not getting scored on today on these D-zone coverage drills or the line drills. You know, we're going to shut them down, you know, and you know, this is going to be our goal today, right? So it's things like that that get you more focused for each drill. Because if, you know, in practice, if something goes wrong in a drill, you're not really held accountable, you know, except to your teammates and yourself in terms of to be better, to, you know, make the practice better. But there's no end result. There's no game. There's no 2 points on the line. So you have to find ways to, you know, challenge yourself in practice to get better in those situations. And that's what I think Kevin can do for Jacob and what he did for Grizz. And it's, you know, it's normal. I think you come out of college, come out of junior, you're one of the better players typically if you're going on to a pro career. So you've gotten away with sometimes some loose habits. Not everybody, but, you know, it's perfectly normal. So that's what we want to take out of their game and build in the good details and habits so that when the puck drops, you know, you're ready to go and you've kind of been through it in your head and mind. And, you know, so that's the ask of our veteran guys when they're paired with a young guy, whether it's, you know, on a forward line or a deep pair.
Connor, we'll go next to Steve Conroy.
Hey, Butch, how you doing?
Good.
But there are some key players on the last year of their contracts, Tuukka, Kretsch, Yarrow, Sean Corrali. Do you keep any closer eye on how they're feeling? Do you keep a close temperature on the room when you're in this situation?
Well, I ask, I talked to Berg yesterday, as a matter of fact, after practice. We had 2 tough days. Let's kind of welcome back. Let's get at it, back to work. We don't have a lot of time. You know, the feedback was they're good, intense workouts, but, you know, if we followed that up today with another one, similar to that or harder than this, it could affect the scrimmage, you know, going forward. We want to see guys, you know, try to be, you know, well rested and ready to go for tomorrow, the 2 scrimmages, because we are evaluating a little more when it's true 5-on-5. So today was a day that we decided, and we knew this a little bit going in, Steve, but we usually take the feedback of the guys and we'll do a little more teaching today, slow it down a little bit, teach so that it's not as taxing on them. And then hopefully tomorrow they, you know, bring a little more of that battle level. So we do that with a lot of the veteran guys. Those are usually the barometer guys for us. There's different guys I ask, and then sometimes I'll go to a young guy that'll give me an honest answer. Grzelcyk's a good example of that. I've always kind of gone to him. He's a hardworking guy, he's a young guy, soft-spoken, but he'll tell me, yeah, that was a tough one today, because, you know, sometimes the old guys will try to fool you every day and tell you it's tough, so you go easy on them. But that's one good thing about our group. They're willing to work hard, they embrace it. But that's a lot of the back and forth with the veteran guys, and a little bit how things are going with the group, because it's very different. We're a tight knit group here, but it's hard to get together and really get to know one another and kind of the parameters we're working on, and that's just the way it is. So we've lost a bit of that ability, like Smitty, for example. I mean, we've hardly been able to, typically a new guy, go in, have lunch, sit down face to face, have a chat, get to know him, but it's so more difficult under these circumstances. So that's the part you lose out on. That's always been good to us here at the Bruins, in a culture that, Bergie's always, and Marsh and Kretsch have always fostered. So that's what we miss out on. But Tuukka's good. I talked to him today. He's feeling good. He's going to play. We're going to use 4 goalies tomorrow for the scrimmage. Each play a half or a period, however you want to describe it, and then go from there. But I get feedback from those guys every day, and so far I think we're trending well. Marshy too, coming off his surgery, seems to be getting through training camp very well, so that's a positive sign too.
Just I guess maybe the uncertainty that guys could be feeling going into their final years of the contract. Do you address that at all with them, or you just pay attention to see how the room is feeling?
Nope, I don't. I mean, that's the business side of it that they've been through before. Now both of them signed long-term deals, so it's been a while since they've been through it. But I think they understand where they are. They've got representatives that talk to them about that. I don't know who's had discussions with Donnie. I'm not privy to that right now. At some point, I'm sure that be brought up as the year goes on. What may or may not happen. We just want to get going here. That's where our focus is. So. No, I just don't feel that's my place to get involved unless it gets worked into a conversation. Like if we're talking about something, it's like, well, I got to be careful. I'm in the last. Okay, you're in the last year. You want to talk about it? Like what can I do to help you, but still be true to our team here? So that's where the discussion would go. But I typically don't get into the guys business side of it. Like I said, unless it's just kind of organically it's built into the conversation, or they bring it up to me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Time for 2 more. We'll go next to Fluto and then Matt Porter to wrap it up. Go ahead, Fluto.
When it comes to the breakout, what kind of principles do you want your players to keep in mind when it comes to options or route or outs, just to help them perhaps not compromise the defense, but we get going a little bit quicker the other way?
Well, the first thing is, okay, coming out of the new, a lot of times breakouts start with a dump puck. Obviously, there's face-offs in your own on, I know that, but or an off-net shot. But typically, it's a dump in. So, how are we defending in the neutral zone? Or do we have 1D up and 1D back on the puck with a forward, or is it 2D back because of a forward's taking care of the guy kind of dumping the puck in? So it starts with that. The read on who's your out. Who's your first out? Is it a D or a forward? And then we go from there. We've always built in a wheel mentality, Fluto, where we want the D to preferably skate on a puck. His first option should be, hey, I'm going to get my feet moving and lose the first forechecker if I can. But in this league, there's a lot of guys that have a good stick, good angle, so that's not always possible. So where's my first out? Is it a bump? Is it a bump? Is the forechecker on my right shoulder, so I bump the puck to the left side, keep him there? Is the forechecker on my outside shoulder, so I bump it to the right side, and that has to be a read from your support outlet, whether that's a forward or a D, on those short bumps. All right. If it's a long rim, you're under pressure, you take a look, which is, I guess, an automatic as well. Going back on the puck, you should always be shoulder checking it, at least twice. Originally once, and then as you get closer to the puck again, in case something's happening, in the meantime. So understand where the immediate danger is from the first forechecker, and then the second level of forecheck. Where are they? Are they on the walls? If not, it could just be a simple hard rim every time. If they're not taking away the walls, easiest breakout in hockey sometimes. So those are your checklist things. Find F1. Where is he? What shoulder is he on? Where's my outlet support? And then what's coming from the next layer? And some players are able to read through that easier than others. Others guys have a tough time. Just getting past the first part of it, or that's the big enough challenge for them. So they can't worry about the second and third layer of the forecheck. So that's predominantly what we teach our defensemen. As for the forwards, again, it's are we coming up strong side or weak side tendency? Some of that has to do with what we've talked about pregame on the forecheck that's presented by the opposition. And sometimes it's just game situation. partner or the first forward back talking to that defenseman because he's got his face up against the glass. So there's communication. So that's the next big part of good breakouts. We probably got guys talking all over the ice. So those are the biggest things we look at with our breakouts. And it's a lot of it revolves around the first touch. If your first touch is executed well, then pretty good chance you're going to get going. If that first touch is not a good decision or you executed poorly, pretty good chance their forecheck's going to have success. So that's kind of the biggest thing that we talk about is valuing that first touch, first pass, whether it's a 6-foot bump so that the person receiving the pass is getting in at a good spot, not in his feet or not on the yellow of the boards or on his forehand as opposed to his backhand if that's where he wants it. And we emphasize that with young guys a lot, and that starts in practice to value that part of it. So to me, that's the biggest part of your breakout is usually are you able to execute that first pass and get going.
Thanks, Bruce. Last question, Matt Porter. Take us home.
Thanks. Bruce, I want to ask about your fourth line. Don't want to be unfair to anybody who's, a candidate by comparing them to, previous fourth lines. But obviously, you've been able to use that fourth line as a matchup line, take some hard minutes. Curious for your assessment of the contenders now. Do you expect to be able to eventually, once things gel, use that as a matchup line? And right now, through, a couple days, 3 days, are there any three that really stand out?
Well, listen, I thought our fourth line looked good, especially with those new TD stickers on their helmet. I thought they looked terrific out there today.
Barely noticed them.
Well, listen, typically it's Corrali, it's Wagner. We know what they can do. And last year it happened to be Nordstrom. There was a Chari in that mix. We've had Nash, we've had Schaller. We've relied on that. It's allowed our skill guys to get a few more offensive starts. We've, addressed that. We want to do that with, using the crutches. So this year we've put Bjork over there. We feel he's got good speed, like a Nordstrom, for example, a little better ability to finish. We're hoping that we can build into Anders more of those penalty killing habits, getting in shooting lanes, a better, anticipating where the puck's going so you have a good stick. So right now, we're looking at him over there. He could move around Anders. And from there, it could be a Frederick that moves in there. A good way to get, yourself acclimated to the NHL. But in our situation, you also have to be able to play good defensive zone minutes against good players because that's what we're trying to entrust or that's the trust we're trying to build with that line and build into their game. We've been able to do it. Crowley came into this league as a young guy, did it. Like I said, there's been different guys. Achari come in. Now it might be Bjork, it might be Frederick. We know Wags has done it. He's done it for years. So that's a little bit of our philosophy there, and we don't want to change that. But if the players aren't able to do it because they're not ready or for whatever reason, then we've got to look at building different responsibilities in that fourth line. Then it could be more physicality. It could be more strictly, penalty killing guys. Like there's a lot of different fourth line makeups around the league. Ours has always been, we want to be stout. We want to be able to play good, solid hockey. We want to kill. Puck possession in the O-zone. I think that's what hurt us last year a little bit in that line. They weren't able to keep pucks down low against good lines in the other end as long as they did previously to sort of frustrate that group. So that's the other part of it. That when you have a fourth line is, be able to, sort of wear the other team down and leave a good puck for the skill guys coming over the board. So we're certainly looking at, an opportunity there. Like I said, Nordy was there last year. We're looking at different guys. Anton Bleed would have been that mix, maybe a Kuhlman, but unfortunately they're not able to participate right now. So it's a little more the other guys I mentioned.